Yeah, yeah. Thanks,
Clean
bro.
shaven, got a
I
nice haircut.
Yeah, I guess that's what you call this.
Where are you located? I forget.
San Diego. So
Hmm.
right out here, I'm going to share this to my page. Hold on one second. Um, share to share. Um,
They're just starting to come in.
yeah. So right
So,
out that
huh,
window is the Pacific Ocean. I'm like a block
really?
from the Pacific. Um, so I'm blessed right
That's
now.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's a nice beach down there too. That's nice weather.
Uh,
That's like the most moderate weather in the country, other than maybe southern Florida, year round. I mean,
yeah, I mean it's almost the end of November here, and I was at the ocean doing my morning routine this morning at early in the morning, and it was nice. Right now it's probably about 68 degrees and sunny.
it's not
So
bad for November the 17th in the United
yeah,
States.
no, definitely
Um,
not.
so, what do you do? What's your morning routine?
Oh, great question. That's something I could talk about. I'm passionate about the morning routine. So I get up. I've moved to black coffee. So I go get a black cup of coffee, and I go and I either exercise. So I like to do at least 2 miles, and then meditate. And what I find is that when I do it in that order, I get deeper into the meditative state. However, there are times where sometimes I meditate first and then I exercise. Um, so that's a big portion. But when I first wake up, what I do is I put something on in my ears that is gratitude based.
Right,
Whether
right.
it's just being grateful for the casual things of life, or whether it's
Yeah.
deep gratitude for something else. I want to really get into that brain wave when we first wake up, and kind of help reprogram the subconscious mind and focus on that. So I
Yeah.
step into gratitude. So that's huge. So I found that when I first wake up, that's really important. And then I go about 15 minutes later and I go through my exercise, which has become a ritual for me. I actually, for a big portion of my life, with different forms of depression and things in my life, I always found that getting out of bed was very difficult, because of the different forms of depression, and so this morning routine has become a ritual that I actually look forward to, and it's something that I'm passionate about, and I believe that it is essential to not only starting our day, but having balance, wellness, health, wholeness, and being fully grounded in our lives.
Well, the ritual of just getting up in gratitude. I started that a couple of months ago. Just sit on the edge of the bed, and
Yeah.
so not only did I notice how things kind of went from there, like like it kind of set a foundation, but I
Right.
also noticed what I'd been doing. So, like, you get up in the morning and, I didn't do it every morning, but you get up and pretty soon after, you're picking up the phone to see what's going on, right?
Right.
So you start to get this, one post or one video, and it's just so you get all this information in a short period of time. I noticed the difference vibrationally, that when I started with the gratitude, and like you said, it's the little things, the big things, everything.
Right.
Uh, Something happens. I mean, it's things come at you, and they come at you, or I guess you respond or reflect or react in a different way to things that that might knock you off or imbalance you easier uh, before.
Right. Yeah. And for me, it's been about creating consistency in my life. So, what I've noticed throughout my life is that I would get really focused on something, and I would do it for a short period of time, and I wouldn't really see the long term benefit of some of these routines. And what I've noticed is that being consistent in this has brought some of the most drastic change. And when I
Mm.
say consistent, for the most part, over the past 6 months, this has been a part of my daily routine, and it has created a ton of consistency in other areas of my life as well. Um, but yeah, for me, I 90% of the time I don't touch my phone on, like, as far as checking it and social media and things like that. I try not to touch it for the first hour, and that's really important for me because I can get, any of us, we can get caught up in that really quickly and really easily. And like you said, it sets a vibrational tone to the day when you
Yeah.
get caught up in whether it's emails, text messages, any of that versus self care. And
Yeah.
what I've noticed is that first hour for me is all about me. It's all about
Yeah.
self care. It's all about reflection, contemplation, and then towards the end of it, I'll usually do like a my story. I'll leave motivational message to my audience and things like that, to kind of just start that day, and then I get into it. But for sure, it's all about, man, for me, everything is about gratitude lately. I can't get enough of gratitude inside of me. I can't attach to that word gratitude and that feeling and that vibrational match enough. I literally am trying to facilitate that energy in my life all throughout the day,
Mm.
and come back to it constantly because, God, we have so much to be grateful for. We have so much to be grateful for. And especially in the time that we live in now, in the chaotic state that some of the things are, I think even more now than ever, we all need to remember how much we are to be grateful for and how much we have to be grateful for, especially us. The fact that we're having this communication right on a Zoom meeting, um, the fact that we can do this is so, we have so much to be grateful for.
I agree. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely a parallel in the polarities, no doubt, too, as well. Um, I mean, have you, how have the last few weeks been? I mean, have you felt the energetics coming in as they come and go? Have you had to adjust? I mean, what's your experience been like?
Yeah, great question, Todd. I mean, I've definitely felt some of the energies and the collective thing going on, but there's a like a meme and a post, and I've seen it a few times out there that says, "I dare you to shut the world out for 6 months and work on you." And
Hmm.
I kind of feel like, I've been doing that. And so I'm so focused on facilitating and creating what it is that I want to create in my life, in my little world, that for the first time in my life, I've been very balanced. I haven't felt the ups and downs of the energetic, because there is a lot of energetic things going on in the world that we live in. And I've found the more that I focus on really my own wellness, my own health, my own wholeness, I'm not as drastically impacted by some of those, but I'm definitely aware of it.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it, we can't deny it, right? Those of us that are tuned to the collectiveness, and to those of us who have been to raise the vibration and to help assist the awakening that's taken place, we are obviously attuned to that. But um it's really powerful, and this, the more we heal ourselves and the more we focus on our inner world, the more we know we have a ripple effect on the world around us.
That's true. It's true, and it's I don't know. I'm a big believer that we're creating new code just through like what you're talking about. That focus, and not to feed any type of spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
Uh, in regard to, because I think everybody here would consider themselves an empath
Right.
and picking up others' energy. Have you experienced like moments when you get a feeling of imbalance, or what is this? That type of stuff, and getting to the point where you realize it's not yours, it's the collective, becoming a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more fed up with, just the whole kit and caboodle? Do you run into situations like that where you have to decipher, is it mine or is this the collective energy that's just expanding in their discontent?
Oh man, Todd, that's such a great statement and question. And we could probably talk about this for hours. So, I mean, as I dealt most of my adult life as what many would call an unhealed empath, right? And
Mhm.
so for the most part of my adult life, I struggled, and I picked up on energy and felt energy and was aware of energy of people around me, people not around me, the collective, not the collective, myself. And I didn't understand it. And I always carried it as myself, right? I always internalized everything. And so it created a lot of uncertainty in my life. It created a lot of pain. It created a lot of trauma. And it created a lot of struggle. But I'll honestly say that, when I started going through my awakening, I think in 2016, 17, like a full blown, Kundalini awakening, all of that, I feel like I'm stepping into my power now where I'm able to discern and decipher the difference a lot easier than I did before. And I think, I'm able to energy and understand that, you you know, oh, sorry,
You're
connection
good.
issues
You're
or
good.
no?
No, you're
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Keep going. You broke up for a
Um,
minute.
to really, hold that space. And I still struggle with it at times of knowing
Yeah.
what's mine and what's not mine. I think that will always be a continual awareness and growth. Um, but I'm super grateful to be. I just feel so much more balanced lately.
Yeah.
Just really grounded in my energy, and without getting into why and how I did a lot of medicine work and a lot of healing work, that I think brought a lot of balance into my life, and so I'm super grateful for that. But I know that there's a lot of people going through a lot of things right now, and I feel like there's so many people, including myself, we're awakening, we're growing, we're evolving, right? And a lot of people are learning maybe what some of us learned a few years ago, or are going through that. And
Or vice
what?
versa.
Yeah, and
Or
that's why I
vice
do what I
versa.
do. What's
There's a lot.
that?
There's a lot of even playing field frequency in 2021. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
it's interesting to me that as an empath, let's just say before all this became openly discussed, as an unconscious someone or a person that's unconscious of their empathic nature, that they're feeling everything, right? Like they're feeling everything. So like everything is them. And then they pull into
Mm,
themselves like so many of us have done, and they go into that self-realization, self-awareness, and stay there. And then go back into the world, so to speak. But it's interesting to me that it goes from everything is me to it's only me back to it's all me. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like, in other words, there's something about the process or the way this thing's set up that we can't dismiss anything going on, but yet it's in this state that you're talking about that you're going through, which I know a lot of people can identify with, especially these last few weeks. People talking about, it's crazy, but I feel more me. I feel more balanced. I'm seeing more. I have more clarity, but at the same time, you still have these frequencies of this distortion that's being, you know, presented all the time, every day.
right.
Especially if you live in an environment like you do. I mean, you're basically in a pretty dense area as far as population goes, in a big city in the United States. Do you run into, like, when you go to get coffee, is the mass thing and the did you get vaxxed and all the different things that are being played out? Because I know California has been pretty aggressive in restricting things.
Yeah, you definitely pick that stuff up when you go out in public, right? It's I think that's why I like spending a lot of time by myself. Because I like being by myself. I like going running by myself. I like hiking by myself. I like meditating by myself. And you definitely, in these denser areas, you pick up on it. That's why I do like going hiking, and I go to the mountains, right? And I get away, because it's important. I think it's really, really important in these times and these days, that those of us that are on this journey, that are aware of the energy, or aware of feeling the things that we feel, is to really separate ourselves at times and get away and get into nature and do all of that. Um, what I have found, Todd, and I would assume that a lot of the followers that you have and people that follow my work, the more I focus on what I can control, and
Mm,
what I can control, meaning my own inner world, my children, my family, my immediate circle. And when I mean control that, I mean just influence that. The more I focus on that and what I want to create in life, and the influence and the impact that I want to have on the earth, um, the less I don't honestly, like, I hear sometimes I'll be scrolling on social media, and I know you're probably like this, and I'll see something and I'll be like, God, I had no clue that was going on. You know what I
hmm.
mean? And I think the more I detach from the vaccine conversations, and I detach from the politics, and I detach from all of these things that want to consume our energy and want to consume our time, the more I have focused energy and power to focus on my own wellness and my own wholeness and my health, which impacts the little world that I'm a part of, which then impacts the greater world, which is how we really ultimately heal the world, as we starts here. The more that I'm not impacted by that as much, and um, I wrote real quick. I wrote a post recently about the vaccination, and I'm sure you can, where I stand on the vaccination, but
No, I
I
don't.
wrote. Uh,
I do,
I mean,
I don't take anything for.
I have natural immunity, right? I had
Hmm.
COVID. So, I mean, I'm not for mandates. I don't think that,
Hmm.
mandates are healthy for any nation. I think that it should be an individual right. And I think that it should be an individual right whichever way. I think we have to be careful on both sides of this narrative of going to the extremes. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
it's an individual decision. I think when we start telling other people what they need to do, then it becomes, he said, she said, and us versus them, and that's what they want, right? That's what the
Or
divide is.
I mean, has it gotten to the point in the energetic field where if even we have an opinion that is one side of the issue or the other? And again, I don't think it's totally about like COVID, mask, quarantines, vaccines. That's just the face of what's beneath it. And I think
100%.
this, and so I totally get what you're saying. I absolutely 100% to my grave, as within without. This is all
Yes.
mine. That's what I was saying about that little cycle of, as an empath. This is, I'm making everything me, and then I realize that's not me. I shed everything, and then I go back out into the world. Yet those things are still there. I'm reacting, responding, reflecting differently, and I understand totally, and I think everybody here does, that we change this thing from the inside out. But
Yeah.
this, and there's no coincidences, right? So Joanne Ferginando, I hope I didn't mess your name up too bad. Thank you for the comment. This kind of sums up what I'm getting at and what I'm seeing and feeling with people. I totally feel the distortion of the world, which I don't normally do, but have done the last few weeks. So this is what I'm talking about. There seems
Right.
to be like this slow, steady, deliberate buildup of this distortion that just in little increments is getting louder and louder and louder and louder. So the truth is coming out. And yet we're walking back out into the world knowing that we change it from the inside out, and also knowing that our thoughts are actually what's creating everything. So, I mean, are you finding that somehow or another you're drilling down more, going deeper, finding a deeper neutrality, questioning yourself on opinions that you have that you don't even share? You know what I mean? The subtle nuances of that which is providing a catalyst for us has to be having some effect on us in our human experience. I mean, what's your take on like what she said and how this is playing out?
And I think she went on to say that this is my inner turmoil at the moment. And I think
Hmm.
that is the reality, right? So we are literally we are seeing, I think a lot of us are being forced to see some of the things and look within. And, I think that, I'm careful to say that everything is a reflection in a mirror, because, there's some things in the world that happen that we don't quite understand and things like that. But, it's, I think that it's always pointing us back inward. I
Yeah,
think that
I just
that
saw
it's all,
I just saw the rest of her comment that you brought up, and that's what she said, right? She says,
yeah,
so this is my inner turmoil at the moment. Is it that we bring it back to us
right.
whilst the governments are forcing people into a corner of control, and to be
So
ignorant of that? Yeah.
to touch on that, and so I know, having been in prison, having gone, my story, we've talked about my story, having gone through the addiction and the struggles that I went through, I personally know that at some level we have to be careful, no matter what we're saying, that it's not a victim mindset, right? The
I
government
agree.
is
I
against
agree.
me, the government is good, so we have to be very careful to not slip into victimhood, even when we as a collective are saying that the government is always against me as a government. I'm not saying that there aren't things that are issues there, but we don't fix it by focusing on the negative aspect. This is what I've learned in my own life, having been a homeless drug addict who went to prison, who lost everything, who lost his way, his soul in a sense, but who refound it. What I realized is that the sooner I stepped out of victim mentality and stopped blaming everything and everyone around me, including the government, including, these delusions that I had in sorts, the greater power I gave back to myself
Mm-hmm.
to bring about healing. And you had asked me a question, do I look at some of the things and shift? I mean, some of the things that I believed yesterday, I no longer believe today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am in this constant place of looking within and saying, oh my goodness, is this still true for me? For example, I get a big popular vote for this. I was vegan/vegetarian for 2 years, and I have switched to almost like a keto diet and intermittent fasting and all this stuff, because I have never been healthier, physically fit,
Mm-hmm.
losing weight, everything. So that was a big switch for me, because I was, I bought into, this narrative for my own reasons. And now I had to be willing to experience and try the other thing and see how I felt. And I feel more connected. I feel more open. I feel physically stronger, mentally clearer, everything. I'm tighter. I've lost weight. And while I healed my acid reflux, which I've tried everything to do, including veganism and vegetarianism, to try to heal that, and it never worked. And going keto and intermittent fasting has. My whole point of saying that is, there's no right or wrong.
Exactly.
It's an individual thing, and
Exactly.
we have to be careful not to put our stories and our narratives, because that can cause. We have to allow people to make their own choices.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. No, I
and
totally
I'm
get
like
that.
that.
I'm just like digging into the individual human expansion is happening. I believe it's
100%.
there's certainly a significant minority, if nothing else, but who knows? It could be everybody. Who knows? But there is a parallel of an expanding distortion, and I'm wondering, like listening to her comment and what I was talking about, what it feels like to me as an empath. What we did, we all became hermits, and we rebuilt ourselves and went back out there. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me, that we would engage that, because we can't divorce ourselves from anything in the universe. And just like, how is that distortion catalyzing us? What's happening? I don't think that it doesn't seem like there's more rebellious frequency. Like, you don't see people out there burning stuff down. These are
Right.
peaceful protests, but it just gets louder and louder and louder. And I'm wondering, is that a force that's bringing change to us, like you're talking about? Like, your truth today, you wake up tomorrow, you let go of vegan or whatever the case is, and you go to another direction following the guidance that you're receiving. I mean, I don't know if it's a conscious thing or an unconscious thing, but there's got to be some type of effect from the catalyst of this growing distortion, and I'm wondering if it's helping us to become more self introspective, to continue to question ourselves even more and more deeply, and to be in more command of our thoughts. Because like what I love about your morning routine is that you're programming yourself. and,
Correct.
and, I, and maybe it's just this conflict or this situation is nothing more than taking us into a deeper place where we take full command and control and responsibility of the programming of ourselves moment by moment. I don't know.
Well, the polarization, we need the distortion to go where we're going, right? And so I think that, you know before dawn, it's the darkest that it is, right? And so I think that the distortion is a necessity, the narratives, right? And it goes back to, and again, I always bring it back to me. When I was sitting there meditating this morning, I was bringing awareness and gratitude for everything that is in my life, because it simply is, right? In that present moment, what is simply is. And
I
it's the
agree.
same thing with us as a collective. What is simply is, because we created it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that is, we created. And I truly believe that as a collective, we desire much better than what we've had in the past. And so therefore we are creating it. And that sometimes takes that reprogramming stage, right? It takes that time where we are healing the trauma of old, where we are looking within. And I think that is ultimately what the distortion is that, we can get into the, you know, the ones that are trying to keep things from happening and this and that, but nothing can stop what we are creating as a collective whole and where we are going as a collective whole. And I think that I'm super excited for where we're going and some of the things. I think there's, things that we have to be aware of, AI and things like that. But, I think as a whole, I think the collective consciousness is awakening to more wisdom, more truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just simply going to continue to raise our energetic awareness and vibration so that we can do what we came here to do. And ultimately we came here to earth to live this experience, right? We came here to bring a valuable asset to the earth, to heal Mother Earth, to heal the human race. But most importantly, and I try to remember this, we came here to create art through our own lives. We are the masterpiece. We are the art, right? We are the tapestry. And I think that our stories are the art of life. And I think that when we remember that, and we remember the reality that we came here to have a human experience.
Yeah, I totally
We did.
agree. 100%, 100% with what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
But I also have this kind of keep yourself in check switch, because I know the universe well enough in my own experience to know you can never take your eye off the ball. Uh, I have no fear in infinity, in divinity, uh, that it's is or isn't there. And then I go back to I'm conscious here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
conscious here. Nobody can prove anything to anybody. We're
Right.
just here. And there just seems to be like this magical uh, permeation of this energy that's just bringing us home. And it's just kind of weird, because for every degree of awareness and experience of that, there's this other one, the yang to the yin yang, right? And
Yeah.
it's this distortion, and it's just many things. It's fascinating. It can get to you. You can ignore it. I mean, I don't know. I think that comment that she made, that second part that you were talking about, and what you're saying is how we face these things seems to be something that is going to be done. It's inevitable. It's just like your own story, which is energetically like pretty much everybody here. You know,
Right.
pain being or being in the depths, or the dark night being proportionate to our life experience. It's all the same thing. But like we had to like really get into a distorted state. We had to really pull up all of our demons. And what do we have to do? We have to face every single one of them. Any of them that we left and that we have left, they're still there and they're coming back bigger and uglier. You know what I mean? So there is a lot of truth to what you're saying. I feel that the distortion's getting louder and louder because it's mirroring what we've all done. And so I can see the good in it, that collectively, Morgan and I were talking about it just a while ago, that, you know, a lot of what we're feeling is collective because more and more people are entering that field of thought. And so what comes from that? I don't know. I mean, is it going to be through, or I guess what I'm trying to say is, when are we going to see the physical representation of the individual transformations take a, get to a point of cohesion where you're actually seeing this in mass? And maybe we're starting to see that. Like they had 100,000 people uh, marching peacefully in Melbourne last weekend, which was
Right.
amazing.
Right. Well, I think too, it's important that all of us remember, you know, we each individually have we have a collective, uh, you know, mission, if you will, together, right? And then we individually have our collective, I mean, our personal purpose. And I think the more that those of us that have kind of gone through this awakening stage, and you got to remember, it's only been about 10 years for this great energetic shift, right? I think a lot of people started 2011, 2012. There, you know, we could get into some of the nuances of whether it was galactic or all that stuff, right? But there's been this awakening happening forever. But over the last 10 years, a lot of people on earth now, you know, have been going through this major shift. And then it was like 2016, 17, I think a lot of people will tell you they went through a major shift. And now you got a lot of people over the last year, 2 years going through a major shift. And I think that, you know, as we all begin to step into our purpose, because now we've healed ourselves, right? We heal ourselves, we heal the wholeness within, we step into our authority, we step into our power, we step into our purpose. And then we individually, you know, obviously with our support group, create the purpose and the passion that we have. And then that will definitely show up collectively. Maybe not in our lifetime as the way we think, maybe, I don't know. You know, but what I do know is that for me, I have a deep passion to be involved in the mental health space and the addiction space, which is tied to a lot of spiritual realities,
Absolutely.
and bringing healing to those. I think the crisis that we have in the mental health arena and in addiction in the United States specifically, but globally, I think is something that we need to address. And, you know, so that's part of my passion, and utilizing different modalities like healing, sound healing, and things like that. You know, so, but I also know that to have the impact and the influence that I want to have, I have to create a sense of wealth, right? I have to create abundance, because
Mhm.
that for me personally is going to allow me to do what I want to do, and give me the resources and the ability to do the things outside of my own energetic vibration, right? If I have wealth and I create abundance for my own life, then I can influence and impact more people than I could just individually. And so, you know, I think more of us are realizing this reality, and I think more of us are stepping into this purpose. And I think as we do, to answer your question, I think we're going to see a major collective shift, and we're going to start to see technologies and different things that will be assisted for humanity, that, you know, wholeness and health and wellness and abundance for all. And that, you know, I'm a part of one
Uh-oh.
that's here. It's got the I have beloved, basically. It's, so we're called the Beloved Collective. And we one of our tenets, one of our first things is that everyone should be born into abundance. And you know, so definitely check out ihavebeloved.com. It's an artist, good friend of mine. We've launched his first single, which is amazing. And we're looking forward to utilizing music to have an influence on the world and as a whole. So we're excited, but I think a lot of people are stepping into their own purpose and their own passions, and we're going to see a major shift over the next 10 years.
I'd like to see a major shift in the next 10
Major things
minutes.
happen.
Yeah. Oh, something's going on with your audio. It kind of
Yeah,
totally started tripping.
I don't know what the heck is wrong with it. You know what? I'm in a new setup.
Hmm.
But yeah,
That's cool.
so just, yeah, sorry.
Um, yeah. Yeah. You can see it. I mean, look, there's more healers every day. There's more people coming out and sharing their skills and abilities every day. There's more homogenous there's more of a homogenous aspect to the collective. And if we just take like these communities that we call star seeds or light workers, because we have to give them a label, um, more and more people are doing light language. More and more people are using sound for healing, one way or the other. So there's these things coming in from an individual basis that are kind of converging, and I think that's a sign. I have a natural curiosity. What does that look like in our experience? But I think that whole thing of even being curious in respect to trying to mold the future, what am I trying to say? Trying to understand what that's going to be, accepting an overlay, accepting a narrative. I mean, this stuff that's happening to us, to me, it's making us. There's a change or there's an effect to how we talk, what words we use, what we put into the field, not just from our words, but also from our actions. I mean, we've lost these identities, and a lot of us can relate. Being a criminal, being an addict, being a narcissist, being an asshole, being whatever, not being enough. But some of the things that we've attached to, that we've accepted in our progression, are also starting to go too. Like even the term light worker or the term starseed or anything that puts us in a field of exclusivity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so this is some really deep stuff that I see in people, but at the same time, it's not baffling. It's somehow very amazing to see the distortion growing in equal pace, it seems. And maybe I'm
Wow.
giving it too much credit, but it's just like, wow, like almost like all thoughts are being removed, everything's being removed, including what happened a minute ago and what's going to happen a minute from now. It's just like this almost bizarre thing that's over and above everything.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's wild. And you said something that I think is really important within the spiritual community, right? And that is that even as spiritual people, we tend to put labels on everything. And
Mm-hmm.
and we unintentionally create separation, right? We unintentionally, and I think the more I grow, the more I do realize that I am you and you are me,
Right.
right? Like, not only from a quantum reality, but from an understanding that if I spend time with you and you spend time with me, we are literally going to have a conscious effect on one another. You're going to take on behaviors and mannerisms, and I am the same. And we as a collective have to realize that this is constantly always happening, right? And so there really is no separation. I am you, you are me, you are the addict. I mean, we're all a part of that reality. And I think for me, the more that I recognize that, the more I'm able to understand that compassion is where we have to lead. And so even when we talk about vaccines, or even if they're on the other side or someone's on the other side of an opinion, or we want to attack and we want to be right and we want to be, my way is right. No, we have to remember to come together more. And, that is the distortion that breaks my heart in what I see in the energetic field, is that there are so many people willing to go to the stake on they're right and you're wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong. And I think that, the more that we continue to grow, I think the more that we will hopefully elevate past that distortion, because I think that distortion, and I can speak specifically for the United States, is creating a lot of divide in the United States. And I think that we have to really look at the realities of I am you and you are me. And,
fuck the United States. And I mean, what I mean by that is that's just another separation comment. I mean, I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying, like, this stuff is so deep. It's so subtle. There are no borders. We are free souls. So it's like, let's be done with the Stockholm syndrome. Let's be done with, all this is taken away, and then I'm gonna give you a little piece back. Now I'm talking energy here. And even like in what you're saying, I totally resonate with it. But at the same time, I'm in these thought patterns within my own space of where I say, okay, if I think that there's people that are not awake, or I think there's too many people that are caught up in having to be right, then I am finding myself in this space going, oh, wait a minute, who am I to, because if I'm saying there's a bunch of people out there with this or that, then I'm beneath the surface making a judgment and being judgmental, because obviously I'm on a higher ground than they are. Like, these are the types of thought patterns, you know what I'm saying, it's not just me. I see it in other people. That's why, I feel like we have made some progress, as what is at a minimum, like a strong minority, I think, because I see people that are shedding their spirituality identity, that are just moving into a space like you're talking about, like you're demonstrating, which is, I have a passion. Here's what I'm doing. I love what you said about working in the mental health sector and with addiction, because that's a very real playing field. That's a very big component of, let's say, attachment to 3D, or attachment to programming, or loss of self-worth, or however you want to put it. I wonder, like, have you seen any, because I know you've been in that environment for quite some time. Have you seen any changes? I went through that. We discussed it. You take something like AA. Okay. You take something like, and I know AA has done massive, great things for people. And probably the other way around too. If we want to be frank about everything that we've experienced, there's two sides to it. But my point is, are you seeing any changes in the fabric of the mental health community, addiction community, especially with a big emphasis now on opioid rehabilitation? Are you seeing things being challenged within that environment where they're saying, hey, this is not going to work anymore? We have an emotional intelligence that's gone beyond it. This is now a sacred cow. It doesn't work anymore. Are you seeing anything like that happening, or do you think anything like that will happen?
Yeah. First, I want to just touch base too on this real quick, Todd, is that one of the things that I have learned recently for myself is that because I'm a spiritual being, everything is spiritual. There's nothing that's not spiritual in our human existence, because we're spiritual beings having a human experience. But because we are spiritual beings, everything is spiritual. And even, saying, one of the things that I've had to work on is saying this is spiritual and that's not. Well, no, everything is spiritual, because literally we live on a ball floating in the middle of the universe. I had this conversation with my sons looking at the beach the other night on a sunset. I was like, do you realize we're literally living on a ball floating in the middle of nowhere? And so the reality of that, and awareness of that everything is spiritual, is really helping transform my life as well. But to your question, I think we're at the cusp of some huge change in the mental health and addiction world, and I hope to be a voice in that field as well. I do believe that the plant medicine research that is now being done by some of the top medical research facilities in the world, is going to bring about a revolutionized way of helping heal and deal with mental health and addiction through plant medicines. The research that's being done with psilocybin is absolutely incredible. And I'm speaking specifically from a medicinal point,
Yeah.
right? Nothing, not recreational, nothing like that. And I do believe wholeheartedly that this is going to change the way we as the Western world deal with mental health and addiction. And I think that by 2030, this may be the way of leading. And I'm not the only one that says that, but there, a lot of people that are involved in this believe that that might be the go-to way of helping people heal, because unlike what we've seen in some of the Western medicines and things like that, it seems to get to the root and actually heal some of these things that are going on internally. And I think that hopefully the 12-step programs and the programs that haven't really been truly successful, if you were to look at a statistical rating of the success, we'd have to say that that it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked simply because we're in an epidemic right now. Again, I can only speak specifically for the United States because a lot of my study and research is there, but we are an epidemic of an opiate crisis. We are the most prescribed nation in the free world with antidepressants, right? We are probably one of the most obese nations in the world, right? All these things are correlating to mental health and the realities of that. And so whatever we've been doing isn't working. And I do believe that there is change taking place. I think it's going to be a slow ship to turn because it's a big ship. And I believe that these are the conversations that we need to have, that medical professionals need to have. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed doctor. So obviously I don't have the credentials to say, to give medical advice, but I'm hoping to have a platform soon to share my story. I'm finishing a book that's going to go through my healing process of severe mental depression and severe addiction, probably the worst that you can have when it comes to addiction, as you know my story. So I'm hopeful. But it's going to take, and sorry, I'll leave you with this, but it's going to take a lot of the old narratives and a lot of the old stories and the way that we do things as a whole, and people that are leading those ways they're going to have to be open to suggestion and change, and they're going to have to be willing to at least sit down and have conversations with people that have found healing. I don't personally battle, I don't wake up and battle addiction, right? I don't have that crisis. I don't think I'm an addict anymore. I think I healed that, right? So I think that these are important conversations, and I'm glad you asked me that.
And so I know you've had your experience with, let's just say, traditional rehabilitation, the status quo, the system, but you've also had experience with plant medicine. I'm curious about, and I totally resonate with the medicinal use of psilocybin, ayahuasca, even, to a degree, marijuana, whatever it might be. But I've always, because when they talk about, for instance, treating veterans with PTSD using, psilocybin or MDMA or whatever, they don't really give the details. I've never seen the details about what actually happens. So you were talking about how effective it is, and then from your own experience and your own knowing, how does that work? Do you get like shadows that come up as a result of interacting with plant medicine? Is there just more of a kind of an energetic alignment that somebody might obtain, say, when they're in dimension? How does that work for you? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's multifaceted. I think there's multiple levels to that question, but I have sat in healing ceremony and had thousands and I really mean, and I've been, like you said, I've been in therapy, I've done the 12 steps, I've been in rehabs, I went to prison, I've done it all. Like, it wasn't like, and I did it for a long period of time, from the time of 18, 19 years old until, for 20 years, I was in and out of different programs and trying to heal this. But a ceremony is like thousands of hours of therapy. And I mean, it is deep and to the core of the traumas. And not only that, so it surfaces the pain and you're forced to feel through it and deal with it and experience it and understand it and know it. And then once you are able to do that, you can then release that pain literally, and then create, from a scientific standpoint, new neural pathways in your brain, right? You can rewire the physical aspect of our neurons and our neural pathways to create healthier connections and to create new connections. I mean, the neural plasticity that these medicines give to our brain and what research is showing is absolutely incredible. And someone who was an IV heroin and meth addict who has been to the bottom of bottoms, I think that it is so important that we get to the root of our trauma. And this allows people to get to the root of the trauma, like being molested as a child, right? Like, that's what and one experience I had, it literally brought me through this like experience where I was able to almost meet my abuser again and show him all of the pain that he created in my life, and allow forgiveness to take place at such a energetic place that it was the most profound thing and the deepest thing I've probably ever experienced. And the healing that it brought me is immeasurable, right? From an energetic standpoint as well, we know everything is energy. And
Right,
I think
right.
that, understanding that. So, and I'm very, very, vocal in the reality is, I personally, and this is just me personally, my opinion, this is not recreational stuff. And I think these plants and these medicines need to be honored as such, because they are sacred, and they have been sacred for thousands of years.
Oh,
Did I lose you?
was that me or you? I don't know if that was me or you.
I think that was you.
This time it was me. All right, brother, man, this was cool. This was energetic. I'd like to talk more about the plant medicine thing next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Man.
Well, I mean, because I see the similarities. I mean, I've had my experiences with plant medicine, but I've also worked, since I've met Morgan, I mean, more and more in dimension, in session, in
Right.
channel, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. And experiences like you described with your perpetrator happen with just the same magnitude or more. So there's something about the plant medicine being a facilitator, and of course, an ancient facilitator. It's a consciousness that you're basically surrendering to, which is very much similar to connection and communion, because we do come into the presence of what feels like something far greater and more powerful than us at times, right? And that's part of the journey. So it's interesting.
Well, it's important. Yeah, it's important too, Todd, to recognize that this is for maybe the people that were in severe addiction, right, or severe depression, and it's not something that you have to continue, right? Like, I don't utilize them now, right? It's right now, like, I do my meditation and my intermittent fasting, and I eat wholeness, and I have balance in my body, and energetically, and all of that. Like, so it's a matter of just, some people need that kind of, they can't get through it with, for whatever, and maybe they can't get, and I'm not saying that they can't, I don't want to limit that, right? But it just facilitates, I think, for some people. But I do agree with you as well. There are other modalities that we can find healing in as well. And I think that's why it goes back to I think within the rehabilitation space, specifically when it comes to hardcore addiction, and I'm talking heroin, meth,
Yeah.
opiates, I'm talking like the hardcore stuff. I think that because the brain trauma experienced from those types of hard narcotics and things like that is real. It creates a lot of issues within the physical brain that needs to be restored and healed.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm a proponent for it, or anything that, anything that helps anybody. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but you've got to give it some credibility because they've been around for ages and they're probably not even from this planet. You know what I mean? But especially the funguses, like the mushrooms and such. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. Plus, it comes from Mother Earth.
Yeah, everyone should watch Fantastic Fungi. Paul Stamets, he does an amazing job in explaining the mycelium and the neural networks of how the mycelium works and understanding mushrooms. As without mushrooms, we don't exist. I mean, there's a lot of realities to that as well, and I think that that's why I'm excited because the research is out there. As someone who suffered in pain for decades, that's why I'm so passionate about it. And yeah, I appreciate you asking me about that. And I just want to, before you go, I just want to, if you don't mind, so make sure that anyone that's following finds eyeofbeloved.com. That's where we're releasing the music that we are conscious music that is designed through healing modalities for healing. So would love people to check out our music and what we're doing there as well.
Right on. All right, man. I appreciate you. Best to you and your family. Thank you for coming in. And until the next time.
All right, man.
I'll see you later. We'll be back in, we'll be back in 7 minutes with Pat Armistead from Australia.
Love you, bro.